clearest things that came out when we were talking about economic development in both the town hall meetings and at all of the various and sundry meetings that we went to was that Wisconsin simply doesn't have enough venture capital. When we start talking about how to create jobs, et cetera, a pretty strong feeling that we're going to do that with startups here in Wisconsin and by expansions as opposed to recruiting big industry. And in order to be able to do those things, you need venture capital. And the folks get the idea that just chasing rich people is not going to produce enough venture capital. So out of that, we listened to a number of recommendations and suggestions, and we've essentially, I think, come up with 2 or 3 ideas. I mean, we talked, for example, about the idea that we need a short-term infusion. One way to do that would be to allow the citizens to allocate up to 1% of the taxes they owe in any 3 out of the next 5 to 7 years to a job investment fund. You couldn't use it for programmatic purposes. You could only invest it in companies that were in fact producing jobs. Mark, you're more familiar with the venture capital fund. You want to mention and talk about that?
Well, if we're going to have a successful economy, we need private sector people making more money, and we need government coffers sufficient so that public sector employees have the resources necessary to create an environment where the private sector can succeed. I mean, both of those systems need to work. So we need to look at what is it that the private sector needs to succeed. Well, we need smart people. We need infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, and soft infrastructure like broadband, and we need capital. Business and citizens alike, very clear on that point. We need inexpensive capital. How do we get it? And almost every study that looks at it will tell us that we're not very good at venture capital in this state. Whatever the reasons might be, our heritage, whatever it might be. We're not very good at angel capital either. We don't have enough really wealthy people to put that kind of money on the table. So we looked at, well, what do we have? We have a lot of people in our state that care an awful lot about their state, their community, opportunities for their children, a bright future. That's what we have. So why don't we use that and create this State of Wisconsin Venture Capital Mutual Fund where we marry the desire of individuals to make a better state and let them allow to invest through their income tax form with the need of business to get inexpensive capital. So if we create this, we know that the dollars in the fund will go to Wisconsin businesses, startup, first stage, second stage. We know that it's going to go to increasing wealth and employing people. We know that eventually that increased wealth will result in increased taxes so that we in the public sector can continue to create a positive environment where the private sector can do that. I think it's a very innovative, interesting idea.
Well, I think another intersection between public and private that is recognized in our recommendations deal with tax policy as it goes to private investment. We have some capital gains tax recommendations and things that really give additional tax incentives for investments made and capital gains realized here in the state of Wisconsin. Again, very internally focused so that we can address directly the issues of the lack of capital and the lack of investment necessary for our startup businesses. And we really focused on that. And it came again from what the people told us in the focus groups. They said, we want to have all these efforts that the state has, whether it's tax policy or investment policy, targeted for those job creation endeavors here in the state.
So essentially what we've done is we've created kind of 4 paths, essentially. We talked about a mutual fund. We've talked about taxpayers being able to allocate a percentage of the taxes that they owe. We've talked about incentivizing using the tax code, right, capital gains investment possibilities. We've also recommended over a 5-year period of time that the state create a $190 million venture capital fund that would be available to regional economic development groups on a 2-for-1 match. So they would have to raise $1, but if they raise the $1, they could get a 2-for-1 match, again, not for programs, but for investment in companies. And our sense is that that's an important piece. And I would point out, we're not the only ones grappling with these kinds of issues, and so we are, I hate to use the word, but we are in competition with other areas. And if you take a look, people are looking for innovative ways to do this. The state of Ohio has just recently passed in public referendum to bond for $700 million for venture capital. The 3 programs we've talked about here would produce there's about $450 to $500 million of investment capital over a 5-year period of time. Ohio's going to have $700 million, before the end of the year. So we do need to start moving in these areas.
I think the other thing we've done is say, these are ideas that the citizens of Wisconsin and academia and business people and then the Wisconsin Way partners have assembled that we think would put our state in a position for future success. But they're not the only ideas, and they may not be the best ideas. So if people have better ideas or want to improve on these ideas, like on everything we've done in Wisconsin Way, bring it on. Our arms are wide open to making this document and our plan much better.
Right. It's called a blueprint for change, but that's why we say change orders are in order.
And they cost nothing.
I think